Hello, this is Dr. Ben Lee, a recent doctoral graduate from Illinois State University's Education Administration and Foundations Department. I'm a K-12 public school administrator and examined a problem of practice within my middle school, and the study, its results, and implications comprise the basis of this presentation. Now, there are problems in all sectors and organizations. I embrace the CPED approach, the Carnegie Practice for the Educational Doctorate, and recognize the value it placed in local action research. The reason behind research is always traced back to a desire to learn about an issue. Well, the problem that's perplexing my organization centers on the phenomena of reassessment. At Olympia, we are trying to break down the traditional educational paradigm. At the crux of this shift is our reporting system. Rather than focusing on grades, we began focusing on skills and how we provided feedback for students. Skills are assessed and reported on a 4, 3, 2, or 1 basis. Students earning a 1 must reassess. Students earning a 2 or 3 have the option to reassess. However, many were not. In fact, results show that only about 15% of our students were reassessing when they had the opportunity. Now, if we were scoring off the charts, that would be one thing, but only 1/3 of our students were performing at grade level in math and reading. So this led to the following research questions. How has skills-based reporting at the middle school impacted student mindset? Why do students choose or do not choose to reassess? And secondly, what role does parent involvement play in students' choice to reassess? Now, the following made up the theoretical framework for the study. The problem of practice is really at the intersection of these three theories. First is the balanced assessment theory, which shows that learning requires multiple measures, specifically formative checks of learning. Secondly, the mindset theory from Carol Dweck, which centers around growth versus fixed mindset and how those terms also link to assessment practices in school. And finally, the third theory is visible learning theory from the work of John Hattie, which centers around assessment-capable learners and research-based feedback, that students need to be able to self-assess where they are in the learning continuum. So here is an overview, a brief overview of the literature that framed this topic, and it's well evidenced the inequities that are involved in traditional grading practices. While skills-based reporting is intended to provide relevant skills-centered feedback with multiple opportunities for skill development. Finally, skills-based reporting cultivates a growth mindset and an assessment-capable learner, a hugely high impact strategy from Hattie's work. But reassessing would indicate a desire to persevere, that of a growth mindset, and our students weren't reassessing, hence the research questions. And here's a look at the methodology. This was a mixed methods approach. The quantitative portion consisted of student surveys, and I can share with you the specific protocols. Just email me. And parents were interviewed using a semi-structured process that comprised the qualitative data. So here's what the study showed. The results signaled a strong awareness of a growth mindset from students. As you can see, they were almost unanimous in their belief that it is possible for students to change their level of effort, that it's possible to change their assessment score, and perhaps most encouraging, that students believe their ability to learn is changeable rather than fixed. Another theme is that assessments were an accurate representation. Students told us that they reassess when they believe their peak performance has been reached. Now, it is feasible that a student could end with a 2, which is below below the expectation, while still demonstrating a growth mindset. On the flip side, students who choose to reassess do not necessarily have a growth mindset, but rather could be chasing the 4, which is above grade level, simply to feed their fixed mindset. Now, an open-ended question at the end of the survey protocol allowed students to explain the conditions that would result in them reassessing more often. And these were the themes that surfaced and have provided invaluable insight for our leadership team moving forward. First of all, students said, look, there's no need for me to reassess. My scores are good. The other theme is that, these assessments are too difficult. I'm not confident that I'm even going to improve if I try again, so I'd rather not even try. Other students said, hey, if it was mandatory, I would just keep reassessing. I would just do what I was told. Other results showed that hey, this is too difficult for me to do this. And most glaringly for the educators at the school was if teachers provided more feedback, and I included a quote, how am I supposed to know what I need to do to get better? And if that didn't summarize the student thought more than anything, I thought that quote did. And finally, students said, if I liked the subject more, I'd be more inclined to reassess. Now, the parent interviews, here are the themes that surfaced from the interviews with parents, and that was, the overwhelmingly parents thought that having a growth mindset was more important than having the highest score. Now, the chart indicates the frequency of terms spoken by parent interviewees during the interviews. But ironically, parents value risk-taking and a growth mindset on an individual level, but the district's shift to skills-based was not met with the same level of embrace. A message that came across loud and clear from parents was that second chances should be based on effort. So these are 2 quotes from parents that summarize this viewpoint. So being prepared is one element parents feel ties together with hard work. A genuine concern and assumption that students are becoming entitled to second chances surfaced throughout the interviews. And while skills-based reporting has been implemented over the past several years, it's relatively new in the lifespan of public education, and our parents still struggle with the concept. Specifically, they view it as very subjective and negative subjectivity. Parents never spoke about the positive attributes of teacher subjectivity within assessments. In secondary school, there are more teachers. More teachers means more alleged interpretations of what constitutes a 4, 3, or 2. Another challenge for us is a variation of skills-based between our middle and high schools. There are no letter grades in middle school, but high school follows the same method, only an overall letter grade is assigned to produce a GPA for college admissions. This proves extremely difficult to understand for parents of children in both settings, or when the students transition to high school. Finally, and perhaps most encouraging, is that although parents recognize their ability to hold their children accountable, they also see the benefit in empowering their students to take ownership of their own learning. I see this as common ground, where our efforts of empowering Hattie's assessment-capable learners marries with the parents' desire for their child to take educational risks and be the best that they can be without fear of falling short. So now what? Well, the study was not designed as a means to an end. It was actually designed with the next problem of practice in mind, a continuation of this study to examine teacher practice entirely. As with any study, there are limitations and recommendations for future study, but I'd like to focus on the recommended actions, specifically from an administrator's lens. Educate all stakeholders. Over-communicate. Even when we thought we were doing a great job of keeping the conversation going, we weren't. So don't assume parents are hearing you. Ask them. Interview them. We've since invited parents to additional skills-based reporting nights for the high school and the middle school. We had college admissions representatives present. We created several video tutorials for not only students but for parents. Challenge learning. Building leadership team that at the middle school has zeroed in on relevant learning experiences rather than focusing on assignments and completed work. Formalized feedback. This is highlighted because what I feel is the importance. Even though skills-based reporting eliminated letter grades, we talk about grades or scores more now than ever, and that's something that I really lament. We have to get past the organizational hurdle of doing school and truly transform learning. One way to emphasize this is to prevent teachers from taking any student practice work home to grade or score. Instead, teachers are to provide feedback during the learning process, whether that's in small groups or individual conferences right there in the classroom. It's more meaningful to students and more efficient for teachers. The college career and life focus, this again connects to authentic and challenging learning experiences that are more than a paper pencil assignment. With those experiences, students in turn will be more likely to reassess and want to improve their learning. And when they do reassess, it's important to have a consistent reassessment routine. Students told us that they should not have to jump through hoops in order to reassess. A procedure with a lot of times, places, and methods should be in place to encourage student reassessment. It's worth reminding everyone the research questions were ultimately to help fulfill the school's mission, to empower students to recognize and achieve growth for success. Remote learning intersects with this study because it magnifies the importance of having assessment-capable learners. Students who identify the learning target and accurately self-assess where they are in the learning continuum. The virtual or flipped classroom has also forced our teachers to leverage students' home surroundings for creative learning applications, not confined to the walls of traditional classrooms. While uncomfortable for our staff, it's been beneficial in our quest for providing learning experiences for students. Formalizing feedback remains the same. Reporting on student performance during the learning must continue to happen in remote learning, rather than days after the fact. So even with skills-based reporting, the danger of a deficit approach from teachers and even parents exists. That thought that students are flawed and must be fixed in some way. In this study, it manifested itself more in socioeconomic disparity of the student. Additionally, the level of education of the parent impacted their views and expectations of that student. The ability to reassess exists to smooth any implicit bias or inequity that may still exist. But before the reassessment is the glaring necessity for challenging, authentic learning experiences. In a remote learning environment, this means not only providing students a digital device, but internet access as well, so that virtual feedback can indeed happen during the learning process. I'm honored to humbly present this study and the lessons learned from it. In the true nature of learning, I'm happy to contribute to the body of research and look forward to continuing this cycle of inquiry for the betterment of learners everywhere. So please contact me if I can be of assistance to you or provide any clarification. Thank you.